evening, and welcome to another episode of A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph. I'm your co-host, Dorothy Odell. I am the founder of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions. I almost forgot what I do here. It's after the holidays, so I hope you all had an amazing Christmas. We're getting ready for the new year. I just looked at exactly what date this one will be airing, and so yes. It is before the new year. So I am excited about that. And it's good to be back with the amazing Dr. Jay Royster, owner of Semper Modis. And so welcome back, Dr. Jay. How are you?
Good. I am the founder and owner of Semper Modis LLC, which is a private practice for us veterans who have served our country and served our community, whether you're a first responder or a veteran of the services. We have become therapists to continue to serve those who serve and their family members. So what kind of symptom you have in your life?
Right. Awesome. And I have to say that this is so, we do have, if you were able to watch the Tampa Bay game on December 29th, Dr. J was one of our veterans that was honored at that game. So I was driving, so I missed it, but I hope somebody taped it for me. And so, yeah, with that though, I have the distinct honor and privilege of bringing Bob and Cindy Vitale to the show. Welcome.
Hello.
Did I say your last name right? Is it?
Yeah, that's good. Vitale.
Vitale. There we go. Welcome to the show, guys. And so I met Bob through Angels 14. I talk about Angels 14 quite a lot, I know. But that's okay because it's an amazing organization. And this is the first time meeting his lovely wife, Cindy. And they're going to tell us a little bit. I didn't realize that Cindy is a first responder. So thank you for your service, ma'am. But I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, things like that.
Sure. Well, I think it makes sense that we talk about who we are as it relates to Sticks for Soldiers, which is this organization that Dorothy, I've talked about on Angels 14 calls. And I will say, Cindy and I have been involved with this nonprofit organization since 2010. So it's been quite a while. And the longer we are speaking with veterans and veteran groups, the more we learn about I would say the unmet needs of our veterans in particular, and just having a better understanding about those who do serve this country. And, as I mentioned to you, we have our oldest son who is serving in the Navy, which, of course, really gave us a perspective on those that serve. But it's amazing to me, and Angels 14 is just one of those organizations that I feel like every month I am meeting new people within the veterans community that help us do what we do, which is supporting veterans in need. And it's really amazing to me. I've met authors, I've met other veterans, combat veterans, I've met groups like Angels 14. And as Dorothy, I think you and I are both considered allies with Angels 14 because we haven't served ourselves in the military. But as I'm told, and I always make a distinction of letting people know, particularly if I'm talking in front of other veterans, that I didn't serve. And I think 100% of them say, you know what, you're serving now. Yeah. And I've also had plenty of veterans say, looking at what we do as Sticks for Soldiers, say, there are veterans that don't necessarily help veterans, as much as many, again, allies do. So service comes in many shapes and sizes. Cindy and I have been very fortunate, and it's kind of serendipitous how we got involved with Sticks for Soldiers. So I can talk about that a little bit because I think that's part of our story.
Absolutely.
So we live here in Fairfield, Connecticut, and going back to 2006, at our local high school, Fairfield Ludlowe High School, the boys varsity lacrosse program, there were a couple of dads from that program that were recognizing, we had men and women. Well, at that time, it may have just been men coming back from combat, severely wounded. But what they realized was there was this great disconnect between those of us going on with our daily lives here and those that were serving and the sacrifices they were making. And again, this disconnect between the public and those that are serving. And they thought, and specifically these young high school kids that really were disconnected in their view. And so they thought, we got to do something to raise awareness for those sacrifices that are being made. And what they decided to do was, I guess they called it a tournament at first. They'd bring together a couple local high school lacrosse teams, do some games together, play a little mini tournament with, I think there were 6 teams to begin with. They would do this all on a Saturday, bring a veteran in to just speak to them about service. They'd raise a little bit of money. And at that time, the money they raised, they donated to, I believe it was Wounded Warrior Project, which was one of the larger, prevailing nonprofits that was out there doing that kind of work. So they did that now for a couple of years. And in 2010, through a contact with these same fathers, they learned of a veteran here close to us on Staten Island, Brendan Morocco, who had lost both his arms and his legs in Iraq and Afghanistan. I forget whether it was Iraq or Afghanistan. And they thought, his whole house, as you can imagine, had to be retrofitted. And there were a lot of needs there. And they thought, what if we took the money that we were raising? They were 4 years into this tournament. That it had grown to a few more teams. And they thought, what if we took the money that we raised and we gave that all to Brendan Morocco to help him with his needs? And so that was the birth of the Sticks for Soldiers honoree. So since 2010, we have been identifying an honoree each year who is the recipient of the fundraising from the Sticks for Soldiers tournament. The Sticks for Soldiers event is always, and I don't know if this started from the very first year, but it is always the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So, we know a lot of the alumni are back in town. The lacrosse season, they always have a fall. The season, it's a spring sport in the high school world. But they're doing some winter practices, getting ready for their season. And the Thanksgiving weekend is definitely at the end of whatever they might be doing for the winter. So it's good timing in terms of getting more teams and players involved. And just the whole idea of Thanksgiving and giving thanks and what this tournament has turned into has made some great sense. So since 2006, Sticks for Soldiers has raised, I was going to say 1.2 million. It's probably approaching 1.3 million.
Wow.
And it's all donated. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. There are no paid board members or administrators. And like I said, we'll carry maybe $2,500 in the bank account just for things that might come up over the year. But the money that's raised, we are giving to the honoree. What we've done the last 3 years, maybe last 4 years, is we started looking at some other local and not so local nonprofits that we can also make a donation to in addition to the honoree. The honoree is our focus. That is the main recipient. But we also realize that there's a great need out there. Mm-hmm. And by donating some money to some worthy nonprofits, it's a great way to help more, than
all veteran related.
Yeah, exactly. All the nonprofits are all veteran related.
Right.
22 Zeros, which I learned of through our Angels 14 calls, was a recipient a couple of years ago.
Fisher House of Boston.
Fisher House of Boston. Boulder Crest has been a nonprofit that we've made a donation to. So speaking, in terms of numbers, in a very general way, I'm going to kind of round these off. The recipient has generally been receiving a donation in the area of $45,000. That's been pretty constant. And so when I talk about then there being additional monies for these nonprofits, it's anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, in addition to the $45,000 that we are giving.
Wow, that's incredible. That's life changing for anybody, let alone a veteran that is severely wounded. Right. And can I just add to you guys' list to check out Project Vet Relief? I just learned, I definitely check them out. Or even the episode last week, Larry Roberts was on our show, and he's on the board of Project Vet Relief. The amount of stuff that these guys do is unprecedented and unreal. And they're actually having an event this weekend, January 3rd and 4th, in Post 69 at the Avon Park, Florida location. It's 100%. There'll be 72 vendors there with all resources for veterans. So I just found, like I said, out about this recently. I know Dr. J is one of their vendors as well, doing with Semper Modus, but it is what they do for our veteran space. And it costs, I think he said $6,000 to $8,000 to take a veteran on a trip. And so they got to come up with this funding somehow. And the trip being like, not a trip. What is it, Dr. J? They do some kind of retreats or something like that. And it's $6,000 to $8,000 to send a veteran on a retreat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. J. I know you know more about it than I do, but I know her internet's kind of slow.
Yeah. So one of the strategic partners, they have about 15 strategic partners. I happen to be blessed with one of them. Part of what they do is they help sponsor those veterans who have, intensive outpatient therapy where they have a $50 copay from TRICARE. And, I don't know a whole lot of disabled veterans that can afford $200 a month for therapy. So what Project Vet Relief has helped sponsor and alleviate that cost from the veteran. And that's where the money goes to with regard to mine. But what you're talking about is they have a lot of whole person wellness clinics, and the company is called SOF Missions. I get to be one of the providers sometimes. So it's a 4-day program where they work on the psychological, social, spiritual, and mental health. And what they do is they have a sponsor, it typically costs them about $8,000 to $10,000 per warrior is what they call them, but they're veterans or active duty or first responders. And you come down to Tampa, you come down to resort, and so if you need massages that the VA won't pay for, or you need chiropractic, or you need acupuncture, or you need mental health, and you have that $50 copay and you can't, what they do is they sponsor that for you, which is pretty amazing. And then there's other ones, like there's mounted shooting and deep diving, and there's just trauma-informed diving. So if you're scared of the water, or you don't want to go into a group of 10 or scuba dive, and then when you lose your wherewithal, like kick you out of the pool, right? These people are absolutely amazing. There's another one that takes you on like adventure therapy stuff. Like you want to jump out of planes, you want to go shoot guns. Like they have different retreats and organizations that do all these different things. And there's about 15 different suicide prevention initiative is the forefront of Project Vet Relief. I was blessed to be on the board for a while, and they decided it was better suited if they could sponsor me. So I stepped off the board so that they could do that, which is pretty cool. But my providers get that money. Like I don't have anything to do with it. So they treat those veterans that have the $50 copay that they can't afford because there is not enough. We are in a mental health crisis, as you well know. And it's very challenging. Sorry, I get off my soapbox, but it's so exciting what you're doing. I love that you guys are helping these into.
Sorry, guys, her internet's in and
I have
out.
connection issues. I apologize.
You know, one of the things listening, and we'll look at this, because if we can post even this event on our Sticks for Soldiers, you know, we're generally using Instagram quite a bit, but that's also being reflected on Facebook. But we'll be happy to share that kind of information because,
Absolutely.
you know, our first tenet is raising awareness, and I'm sure you both will agree with this. The more Cindy and I learn about these needs, and particularly these unmet needs, you realize not how little veterans are getting from. We happen to have a wonderful VA here in West Haven, Connecticut. I mean, it really is astounding. We also don't live in a corner of the country that has a large veteran community.
Right.
So we understand that there are areas where they're just overwhelmed. That's just a fact. People that live around here who are veterans that are using the VA in West Haven, I think generally have a very positive outlook.
Right.
But we, because of what we're doing, and the more we're being exposed to these needs, we realize that the problem in the country, and I would imagine this is a problem just around the globe, is not that people don't care. It's that with, you know, in the United States, the statistic I use, because everyone says it's, you know, less than 1%, but I believe it's less than 0.5%. If I'm correct, it's closer to 0.4% of the population serves in our military. And then when you look at that percentage, you say, well, it's no, you know, of course people are disconnected. So few are serving.
Right.
And, you know, we joke around now because our son is in Virginia Beach. I mean, when you're down in Virginia Beach, you know, you can't walk into a grocery store or a bank or wherever and not see someone somewhere in uniform. So the people that live down there who may not have any other connection to the military, but between Norfolk and Virginia Beach, they get it. They're seeing this around them. In our town of Fairfield, if we walked, and we're walking distance to the town center, the town green. If I walked onto the town green and there's somebody in fatigues, I want to know what's going on. What's happening here, right? What are you not telling us, right? It's not an occurrence that people are used to, and so I guess what's a little overwhelming, and as you talk about this program and all that they're offering these veterans, what's overwhelming is when you think of the needs that are not being met by the systems that are currently in place. So if it wasn't for all of these groups that are doing, you know, good work to help these veterans in need, and I can only imagine that when you start dialing in post-traumatic stress, and you know, I've read where we're going to see an explosion of really, and I've met some of these veterans who I would say are more disabled in some cases than that veteran who might have lost a limb, but is moving on with that, right? Everybody's
Right.
different. And I'm not suggesting that the person who was blown up doesn't have post-traumatic stress, but I've met those people who are getting the care that they need, and they're, let's just say, taking the bull by the horns and moving on with their life. And I've yet met somebody that's suffering from PTS, and it is debilitating. And I know that there are thousands and thousands that, and
Correct.
and so
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And PTSD is an illness or that you can't physically see. Well, there's symptoms that you can physically see if they allow you to see them. Somebody with PTSD is pretty good at freaking hiding it too,
right?
As I well know. And so those are the people that we really got to watch and check out and make sure that they know that they matter, they're loved, and they're cared for. And so another thing I learned by talking with Larry, and sorry, this is all new and fresh in my head, but he says that he knows of 30 veterans that refuse to go to the VA because either A, there's still a stigma about mental health, or B, they're hunters and don't want to lose their license and they think that they're going to lose that, or C, they think, well, somebody else needs it more than I do. But what he told me today, and I'm going to tell every freaking veteran I know that is too stubborn to ask for help, is now you're part of the problem. Because for every 500 veterans, that's when they set up a new VA. So if you don't go and make this known to the VA that you need help, you're actually doing a disservice to your fellow man, because without you going and saying that you need your help, they can't put the numbers together to reach 500 to set another VA in that town. So hello, any person that wants to tell me that there's somebody out there that needs it more than they do, I now have another thing to tell them. Now you're part of the problem instead of the solution. So get in there. And I also learned that, did you know that they can get a kick on their property taxes too, even just by signing up? I did not know that until recently. So there's so much, like, my brain just exploded this morning, finding all this new information so that I can help more veterans. And so it's, I'm like, you thought I was on fire before. Just wait, because now I have a whole nother arsenal in my back pocket, as well as what you guys are talking about with Sticks for Soldiers. And I love, how it was formed and the history of it, and how many, like $1.3 million have been raised for veterans that have been wounded in combat. That is admirable. So Cindy, if you're willing to share, I would like to hear a little bit about your journey being a first responder.
Well, I will share that. I just, a point worth noting about our fundraising effort is most of these funds are raised by the high school kids. We really have very few and very limited any sort of corporate donation. We don't have anyone coming in donating $5,000 or $10,000. So kudos to the children, to our young adults who will one day be our future leaders for doing this. It would be wonderful if we could raise more. And any type of fundraising and volunteerism, it's a challenge. Every year, as Bob had said, we tend to think what we're going to raise, but things, COVID changed that for a lot of people. This year was a little more challenging, and we're still trying to wrap our head around what the issues were, why we weren't seeing the same amount of fundraising that we have in the past. The event has typically been a very family-oriented event, and we didn't have a lot of families attend. So we're really, our focus this year is going to be try to work on how do we increase community engagement and knowledge. It simply could be that, maybe this year everybody decided to travel to see their families because it was much safer for a lot of reasons to do it. But I think that's something that if you're not engaged in the actual fundraising and trying to bring awareness, a lot of people don't recognize the challenge that comes with any volunteer organization.
Cindy, before you talk about kind of your career path, you brought up a couple of really good points, and I think it's worth just mentioning. that in this event that we do, the honoree has always been there. I don't think we've ever not had the honoree at the
One year
event.
we did. He was,
Yes, that's right. There was weather can sometimes be an issue depending on what the wounds are for that honoree. But we do a at noontime. So the kids are playing lacrosse games, during the day. And we break one field down into 4 fields. So it's like pickup lacrosse. They understand that they're there for the honoree. Lacrosse is just an excuse. But the event, we do a ceremony at noon, and all the kids are in the stands. So we had about 510 high school boys and girls in the stands. The honoree is there. Kelsey this year, who was at Abbey Gate. She was one of the Marines that was at Abbey Gate when the suicide attack happened. And she was paralyzed from the waist down. And given her injuries, and we have details on what she suffered, we can always hope for a miracle and advancements in medicine, but she will unlikely walk again. We all hope that's not the case. And she was 19 at the time of that.
Wow.
When that occurred. She's 23 now, and she is wonderful. And she is one of these veterans who has taken the bull by the horn. She is in college right now, looking for a degree in interior design, and just so you can just tell how excited she is about that. But the bigger point, as Cindy was mentioning, is these kids get why they are there. If you are at that hour ceremony, you can hear a pin drop. They get it, that this is the whole reason they're there. It's why they're raising money for that event. And it's really something to see. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do. And it's one of the things that we try to instill in them is, okay, you're gonna graduate in 4 years and go on with your life. Don't let this end. Whether it's support for Sticks for Soldiers, that doesn't matter. We'd always love people to continue to support us, but do something for the veteran community. And I think that's a challenge that all of us have doing what we do. Is we need to get more people just to understand what those unmet needs are. When people understand that, they seem more open, right? Then they're like, oh, I had no idea. But that, I think, is the biggest challenge. And anyway, I don't want to, it just seemed like a good segue just to mention that we do this ceremony, and that the event, while we use lacrosse to get the kids there, it's the excuse that where this all grew out of, but it is about that honoree. And when we tell their story, we ask them to give us as much detail of their injuries and their recovery as they're comfortable giving us. And plenty of these honorees have had no problem saying, oh, I'll give you exactly the 40 plus surgeries over the last 10 years and gut blast, which was something that was new to me. And well, what does that mean? Oh, I'll tell you in detail what that means. We relay that to our audience. This is not how can we make it warm and fuzzy and everybody feel good? This is, let's get real and understand exactly what these sacrifices are that these men and women are making. Kelsey, by the way, was our first and certainly will not be our last woman honoree for Sticks for Soldiers. Long overdue.
Well, and I love that you said, I love the fact that it starts with the kids, because the kids are playing lacrosse, right? The kids are involved. The kids are helping with getting the fundraising and things like that. And the kids are our future. So it's one of the not too many organizations for veterans do I hear about where it starts with the kids. So I love that aspect. And as somebody who's seen a lot of entitlement with kids, it warms my heart that the kids know exactly what these men and women have done, not only for their country, but and they're part of their country, right? And so seeing them, hopefully it gives them another perspective that life isn't all about, whatever that is in their world for entitlement. But there are people out there that are going through hell in a handbasket, literally, just so that they can have their freedoms. And so that in itself right there, if nothing else, is a huge wake up call for some children who desperately need it. Right.
Yes.
We see the entitlement, by the way, as it's we love the community, and the kids are great because they've come up through this. It's been, as many years. This was our 18th tournament, our 19th year. We didn't do one of the COVID years. We were not able to do it. So it's still a challenge, but ultimately, I like Cindy, I have to praise these high school kids, because when you see them there, you go, oh, they get it. They understand why they're here.
Right. And for them to even talk to the honorees, right, and just listen to their stories and find out what it's like, to be on the other side of the country while your family's at home, even. Even if it isn't in a war situation, they're still away from their families. It's not like that, it's not like their normal everyday lives. And I'm trying to put it as politically correct as I can.
I'm going to tell one other story, because it's just a great story. It's heartwarming. And it also tells a little bit about, the types of honorees we have. Two honorees ago, Brandon Laird, who another Marine, and I'll kind of fast forward his story. He served, I think he did two tours in Iraq or Afghanistan. I want to say it was Afghanistan. I should know that. But he, like so many combat veterans, I mean, they suffer. Again, it doesn't have to be a physical wound.
Right.
And he was. They said, "Look, we're not gonna send you back to another deployment in Afghanistan, but you're going to work with your Marines in preparing, the men and women that are going to be going over there," which he really was happy to do. He was still part of that unit, and that ended up with him eventually being deployed to somewhere in the middle of Texas, doing recruiting at a high school. And that was not good for his mental health. And as he put it, he didn't realize the depression he was feeling. Certainly, what he now knows as post-traumatic stress, didn't recognize that, which is that's probably pretty common with most people that are suffering from it. Took him down a path of deciding that the best route for him was to end his life, and he took a service pistol. He put it under his chin and he pulled the trigger. Brandon at the time was married and had two young children, probably toddlers, maybe even infants.
He is still married.
He is still married. I'm sorry. Well, so Brandon survived this, but as you might imagine, he put a bullet through his face, right, from under his chin through the top of his head. Terribly disfigured. Although if you see him now, it's quite remarkable. Again, medicine. He has no interest in going down that route again. He is thankful every day he wakes up and he's on this earth with his beautiful wife and children. Yeah. But as he said to me, when we chose him to be an honoree, he said, "These are not things I'm generally considered for," himself or anybody else that has gone down this path. And I said, "Well, that's the beauty of us being a small grassroots nonprofit, is we don't, there are no rules. We get to help whoever we want." And this also raises awareness to this number of 22 veterans taking their lives every day, which is a number. And I realize I've heard that it's maybe double that number. 22, I can't wrap my head around. Like, even that number. I think most of us say one a day is too many, but 22. you go, that can't be possible. So again, when I think of Sticks for Soldiers and raising awareness, we get to help Brandon, who it was his service and what he experienced during that service that took him down that path where he thought this was the best thing he could do for his family. And so, yes, he was qualified to be an honoree. He had great needs, as you might imagine. He will have surgeries, I would think, for the rest of his life. And I keep in touch. Cindy and I do our best to, whether it's random texts every now and then to a past honoree, just, hey, how's it going? It's probably more for me than it is for them, because I just get this amazing feeling when I get a text back that says, hey, so great to hear from you. Things are great. Or I spoke to an honoree that would have been, I guess, 4 honorees ago. He's engaged, going to be getting married. And then he said, are you around? And he called, and we just had this, 5-minute chat while he was in the grocery store. And I realized that does help them. I realize that feeling like they are part of this family is helpful. But in Brandon's case, we are talking post-traumatic stress. We're talking raising awareness to the veteran suicide epidemic, right? That we're seeing, and then relaying that story. When you talk about privileged, and I don't know if you're, I'm sure you hear stories of Connecticut, but we're 45 minutes out of New York City. We are in a very privileged corner of Connecticut. Fairfield County is a very wealthy county, and a lot of these lacrosse programs are coming from, the wealthiest of the wealthy towns within this county. And, as you might imagine, there are fewer people from those communities going into the military, although they do have them. So these kids, to relay those stories to them, just to kind of shake them a little bit and say, this is happening everywhere. Brandon spoke to those kids, and he talked about understanding high school kids. The world, the weight is on your shoulders, and you feel this pressure, and just understand that it's not so bad. It may feel that way, but he said, you need to talk to people. You need to talk to your friends, talk to your teachers. He goes, I know you don't want to hear this. Talk to your parents. And he was just relating what he didn't do, what he needed to do himself that he didn't do. He told me afterwards that he had, I think, 3 students came up to him afterwards and just said, it was so helpful to hear you say those words. Whether they, who knows where they might have been in their own world, but they definitely were feeling overwhelmed. And they said, to hear you talk, it helped. And then he relayed to me that if he can tell his story, which he's committed to doing now, and that saves one life, that changes one, generally he is speaking to veterans, but he's, he'll speak to anybody who will listen. If that changes one person's decision to go down that route, then he is doing, he said, what he's meant to do now.
Right.
So Cindy and I get exposed to that, and how does it not change you? And so if we can get that in front of the parents and these kids, and we know it because we hear it from them as well when they come back to us and go, wow, that, I didn't know. And then that was something to hear so-and-so say this. And then we can be a part of an organization that's helping them.
Well, when I said that, I wasn't even thinking of Connecticut being a high-end neighborhood. I was even thinking of the kids here in Canada who are privileged, who come from like the privileged background or the entitlement. Because kids nowadays are very entitled. I don't think it's a Connecticut problem. I think it's a world problem.
No, it is.
I really do. And, parents trying to, always be better than their parents and so forth like that. I think it's a whole world thing. And I'm not going to say I never felt that I was privileged to certain things, but I never ever had the mentality that I do that some of these kids think they're entitled just because they're breathing. Some of the things that they're entitled to. And I will not make this a soapbox thing because I can spend a whole hour on this subject alone.
Yeah.
I feel like I hijacked Cindy talking about her taking this route into being a first responder, and it definitely helps us as an organization having somebody that's also part of it that has a perspective that she shares that
Right.
I certainly don't.
Yeah, the entitlement thing is of great interest. One of my roles in EMS is as an educator, so I do a lot of training both on the corporate side and on those people who are looking to get into the field. And there is that age group where no phones in class, and yet they're on their phone the entire time in the class, and it is very, very challenging. I don't have the answer for it other than my opinion. And, I guess sometimes I go down the road of, I am your instructor today, and today you will listen to what I am asking you to do. But you run a fine line of, being, I'm going to talk to your boss, or I'm going to, report you or turn you in or whatever it is. But yeah, entitlement, I'm not sure. Well, personally, I think if we encouraged all of our children to do some sort of volunteerism, it might change that entitlement perspective. In terms of being parents, one of the things Bob and I always did, whether it was intentional or not, but we said no to our kids. No, you can't have a toy as we're leaving the grocery store. We don't have the money for it today. Or no, we don't have two houses because we have one house. And no, you're going to have to learn to share the car with mom and dad because we just don't have that disposable income to buy a third car for you. And, living, we like to joke, we love the community we live in, but we live on the wrong side of the tracks, right? So we don't have those extra things all the time. And for the kids, I think our kids would say to you, hearing no probably helped shape who they are. We certainly
100%.
know children who have grown up and no was never in the lexicon. And you have a different perspective when it comes that way. So, volunteerism is such an important thing to community, to family, to friends. It's a great way to be engaged with like-minded people. And there's something when you give back to people who are so appreciative, because most people don't choose to be in the situation they're in which they require services. It's a real feel good, and it makes you feel worthy of what you are blessed to be able to go out there and do every day. I came into EMS and being a first responder. I loved my corporate career in New York City, commuted in for 22 years, sales and marketing. It was the bomb. Left dad home quite a bit to manage the home front and the kiddos while I was working, but that was, where we found ourselves. And 9/11 happened, and now I can look back and go, that was life-changing for me. We all have a story. I was supposed to be in the towers for an appointment with a client, had to stop in my office prior to the meeting. I was not thrilled with my boss that morning because he made me come in. And, clearly I'm here and wasn't there. So through that process, I became a lot more engaged in my community. Bob saw an ad for the community emergency response team. Oh, you should look at this. And I did, and got involved in that. And then it led me to go back to school and get my EMS license. And I've been doing it for 17 years now. I'm an educator as well. Like I said, work with corporate clients, students, young adults, older adults, anybody looking to come into the field. And I think as a family, volunteerism has always been just a part of how we live our life. And, I wouldn't say that we're any better than other people, but that's a choice that we made as a family, and it became important to us collectively. So we've made choices to do or not to do things because it would impact our ability to try and provide some give back. And, when you have the mindset and the energy and the physicality to be able to go and do things for other people, you should do it. You should just do it. I think we all, here on this call have that same calling, right? Why are you doing what you're doing, right? We can provide a service to others. My amazing career in EMS has led me to some incredible experiences, not always positive, happy experiences. But, I've met people, I've been able to work with groups of people that I never would have been able to do if I had continued my corporate career, and a job that I did, in fact, love at the time. But this is much more fulfilling. Bob likes to say, well, you actually save lives.
Yes.
I'm there to assist when life is very challenging.
Cindy will make the distinction. She'll say it's just basic life saving.
I am not a doctor.
Right. I'm like, all right, but you're still could be the
but you're first on the scene. Exactly.
I do. I spend a lot of time educating myself, continuous learning, taking courses outside of what would be expected. I'm back in school to learn to be a functional diagnostic nutritionalist, because in my own pain to purpose story, I have learned the healing qualities of eating well and moving, regardless of what your baseline is, and how real food has substantial impact on mental health, physical health, joint mobility. And it's such a missing piece in our day-to-day life. And I, hope that I can bring it to my first responding family, because, our group of folks, whether you're military veterans, first responders, police, fire, dispatchers, social service workers, it's not just about not being able to afford a copay. It's not being able to afford the insurance to live. So here we are out there taking care of people, and we're at such a challenge to be able to take care of ourselves. So, just another thought process of really wanting to try and give back to our first responding community. So that's a little bit of my background in a nutshell, and together we make a really pretty good team.
I'm just trying to keep up.
I love all of that, and you're definitely a family of service because your son serves in the Navy as well. So go Navy!
Yeah, go Navy. How about that, right?
Dad served
Army,
in the
Navy
Navy. My mother served in the Air Force. My brother served in the Coast Guard. So while we weren't a military family, we had a lot of people within our family that have in fact served.
It's so funny, because when Cindy says it, when she rattles through, right, people that have served in our families, but we still, when I think of a military family where you talk about generation after generation, we would say no, that's not us. We didn't grow up. My dad, who just turned 94 last week, and he's still in his mind is sharp as a tack. He served his 4 years in the Navy, somewhere right. He says between World War II and the Korean War. I look at the dates. I go, you served in the Korean War. I mean, he was not in combat, but he and I can have that. We can have that argument. But I'm like, I don't think there was much of an in between. If I look at the dates, it seems like it was the Korean War to me.
After our son had his station in Virginia Beach, we took Grandpa down to visit him. And when we got down there and Bob took him on base to meet our son, he was like, this is the base I
Yeah.
served out of. He didn't even realize it was the same base until we got him down there. So, to see the smile on his face and to see him, walk across the grounds like, this is where I served, was so really just a moment to, keep in our hearts. It was really amazing.
But
That is so awesome.
Both the boys, even up until even last week, our youngest, Ryan, our oldest was obviously is out of the country, but our youngest was there for the event, Sticks for Soldiers event. So the two of them, they graduated high school in 2014 and 2016. They have not missed a year since they graduated, where they still are giving back to that event.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see as parents, and they're not doing it. It's not begrudgingly. It's not, hey, we really need your help at this. It's hey, what can we do? So it's really great to see.
I love that. Dr. J says, go Air Force. Dr. J actually is an Air Force veteran herself. That's one thing she didn't say today, and I'm surprised. Hello. She has served. And now she serves at a different capacity. And I love it. It's funny because she used to be in Virginia Beach. So she knows all about that area. We have some first responders, Officer Wallace. She is from Virginia as well. She's been on the show. And Sabrina, I think Sabrina served, I forget where she served, but she served. And now she is serving in a different capacity with Dr. J as one of her, she was in Navy. There we go. Navy Seabee. So Sabrina has served, and she's also from Virginia as well. So a lot of Virginia people on here, and I love that. So if your son wants any connections to Virginia, we'll hook them up.
Sure.
We'll talk after because between Dr. J and people we know, we can hook him up, and at least he has some other people he knows around that area when mom and dad can't be there. So I wanted to throw that in. So I have to ask, what's it like to have a son in the Navy?
What's it
for
like?
you you personally?
I'm proud. I mean, how can you not be proud of someone who volunteers to serve, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anxiety associated with it? 100%. But, and I think partially due to my training as well, how could I be a happy parent if he was doing something that he didn't want to do, right? This is what he wants to do, and he loves what he does. So we couldn't be happier or more supportive or prouder. And, his day at the office is a little different than Bob's day at the office. My day at the office is definitely different than Bob's day at the office, but not like our son's. So, I think there's a profound amount of mutual respect between him and us, and we respect his choices. And as parents, support him 100%.
We didn't have any hesitation. Again, it seemed he knew somewhere in high school. I'm going to say, let's say going into his junior year, he was pretty upfront with us, like, I want to serve. And his plan was, he's going to go to college and then he would enlist. I joke with him now and I said, if you did that the other way around, they would have been paid for it. They would have paid for your college. But he had a plan, and it definitely worked out. His degree, ironically, is in intelligence studies, and it was a really smart move. And we don't know what his future holds. He has re-enlisted, so this is his second enlistment, and he's got another 2 years on that. I won't be surprised at all if he's going to re-up after that. I mean, now, I would say, he's loving what he's doing. I think the issue becomes, does the frustrations of what you feel the impact you can be making outweigh, your day to day? And I think that's where a lot of people say, all right, maybe I can do more, from the outside and still, have an impact on people's lives. But right now I would say, no, he's loving he's loving what he's doing. And when he said that he was going to go in, there was, and we didn't. It's not like we huddled and said, "All right, how do you want to handle this?" We had no hesitation. You know, we were just like, "That's wonderful." And maybe some of that is due to the fact that we were involved with Sticks for Soldiers strictly as volunteers at that point. But I have to think that some of that informed us, because we were also very proud of that volunteer work,
Right.
and had a greater understanding. Now our, you know, in those early years, our knowledge of veterans were severely wounded veterans. I mean, that had some horrific experiences in terms of the wounds, and yet, you know, we were proud of what we were doing. And when our son brought that up, we never were like, that, you know, that seems like a bad idea. Let other people's sons serve. Our son doesn't have to be one of them. We were 100% supportive from the get-go. And now, it's, you know, you go to a, when we're around other parents, there's times it's nice when the conversation comes around. It's like, and how are your sons doing? How are your boys doing? It's, you know, we love saying, yeah, we have a son serving in the Navy. It's just, it feels good as a parent. And, you know, I think we're certainly not 100% comfortable when we've been at some events, usually whether it's a fundraising event or something along those lines, where they ask, you know, parents of men and women serving to stand up. You know, you're part of the military family. We're not 100% comfortable with that yet. I feel like we've not, you know, we haven't done that. We haven't served, and people are like, no. They got there. Parents have something to do, whether it's, even if it's the support you gave them in making those decisions.
Right.
You know, that could be the difference of a young person deciding whether they're going to go this route. So
I challenge you both, the next time they ask parents to stand, that you absolutely do, and take what that, you know, stance and say, yes, I'm a proud parent, and damn it, we are a military family. Just, you know, you serve at many capacities, whether that being an ally, and Cindy certainly with being a first responder. So definitely be proud to stand up and say, yes, I am.
No, we're definitely proud. I think when you're around other folks who have sons or daughters serving, it's easier to have those conversations with people. There is, you know, certainly a lack of awareness, a lack of gratitude towards both families and those who are serving. And, you know, that can be pretty evident at times. So, you know, I wouldn't say we choose not to do it. We're just mindful.
We're kind of sheepish. I would say we do stand, but we're kind of sheepish. It's one of these like kind of slow, like kind of half.
Oh, you should absolutely
You're
own
right.
that.
We will pop right up next time. I'm gonna think.
Own it.
Yeah.
Created a space where your son had the freedom to choose to serve his country. Like, how powerful is that? You know, just sit in there for a minute. I love that you guys created a space where your child felt compelled to serve his country.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Very happy.
Yeah. We agree.
And not to mention with this nonprofit, like what you guys are doing is serving those who served in the best way. Like, you found a niche that is desperately needed support. You know, those who have lost, those who can't provide for themselves. It's not like they can go, you know, run out and get a job at GM or anything, right? Like those options are not available.
How sad that it takes not just Sticks for Soldiers, but all of these groups to come out and support those people in our country who have made a choice to go out and save us, help us. Right. Do it for us. And you know, there's such a need to provide more support to them. I mean, that can lead you down a rabbit hole, right? Because it's pretty heartbreaking and disturbing.
Yes,
I have crossed a certain threshold. So, you know, for the last 5 years, I've been the president of the board of Sticks for Soldiers. And I crossed this threshold finally where I am not shy asking for money. Or even in the town, we use one of the university fields we use. And it's a Jesuit university. It's right here in Fairfield. It's Fairfield University. And they have a beautiful stadium, and we're able to use that. And that's where the girls play all their games. And it's in walking distance from where the high school is. And they would charge $1,700 to rent the field for a day. That's just, if an organization wants to use it, here's the fee. And so I went to them and said, hey, listen, we really would love to have our event at your field. I'm a graphic designer, but corporate communications is part of, kind of
what we do,
where I exist in that world. So I went on and looked at their mission and, about community and doing, giving back and thinking of the greater good. And I put all that in. I said, and what we're offering fits your mission perfectly, for the school to be involved in this. I said, we want to use your field, and I don't want to pay for it. And I got a response back in 15 minutes that said, okay. And
there you go.
Wow. So I found out that prior to me, what they had a different tact. Our organization had a different tact. They would get billed and they just wouldn't pay it, which worked for a number of years. But then the school, worked where you had to pay up front. And I was just like, right. Nobody ever said to them, here's what we do.
Right.
Here's where the money that we raise. So that $1,700 is going to come out of that in this case, this year, out of that young woman's pocket. Mm-hmm. Like I said, response in 10 minutes. That was like, yeah, we love this. So now
I teach in therapy too, is ask for what you want. You'd be surprised when you get it.
Yeah.
So we raised, as Cindy might have mentioned, I think early on that we did, the fundraising was very good, but we had certain goals in mind that were consistent with prior years. And it looked like we were going to be a little short of that. And we've identified a number of what we believe are some of the reasons for that. The kids are older. We have just the varsity kids coming. They all drive themselves now. And so the parents aren't coming with the little brothers and sisters. And those were the people that were opening up their wallets and buying the hats and the T-shirts and all of that helped raise funds. We have a plan for that going forward. But it was, the event was over. We looked at what we had in, and I thought, I want more. I want to give Kelsey this $45,000, and I still want to be able to give a little bit to the other two nonprofits that we kind of earmarked. I sent out an email to the community. Well, one of them was to a board of directors for another nonprofit in town that I work for, and this nonprofit, their board are all a lot of people with money, very good people that give to the arts. Yeah. And some of them have done big money, right? There, we're talking like the Wall Street money. So I sent a note that was very heartfelt. I said it was maybe the most unprofessional email, because I do work with this organization. I said maybe the most unprofessional email I've ever written. I said, and then I went on to talk about how I'm involved. Most of them knew that I'm involved in this organization. I said, I kind of laid out where we are, how we came up short. And I said, and here's where I ask you for money. I said, and not for services rendered by SVP Partners, which is my design business. I said, but for services rendered by Kelsey Leinhart, who at 19,
story.
And I included, a really just quick synopsis of, August 26th, 2021, Abbey Gate, and laid that out pretty quick and said, I'm looking to raise an additional $15,000, which is a big ask. One board member, within an hour, I got an email back that said, that's thank you for what you do. That was a very compelling email. And I have a $5,000 check coming out of these people. These people have brokerage accounts set up for gift giving. That's right. You know, and so there we go. I'm like, all right, we're a third of the way there already. And so shaking the tree, you know, I wouldn't have done that
10
4
years
years, even 4 years ago. I would have been like, you know, and now it's like, just ask. I look at who we're helping, and I think I'm never going to be shy about asking, because that's where it's all going. We're also an organization where all of the money is going to, you know, to that honoree.
We have to advocate for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Wow, Bob, I need you on my team.
it's, the money, by the way, doesn't come pouring out. I wish the other side of that was, and then it rains dollars, but it doesn't. But you do get those that step up. Our biggest challenge is getting the volunteer help to put on the event.
Yeah.
And that's, I hate to say disheartening, but I want the people in the host program, the high school that puts it on, to be fighting over the open slots to help volunteer. And it's just it's not the case. They all talk about what a wonderful event it is. And many of them, certainly not all of them, but many of them wait for other people to volunteer. And that ask, I'm also not shy about asking, although I'm probably less, this is where I know.
In your face about it?
Well, this is where I know maybe I should be stepping down as president, because I think to myself, what I'm asking of you is nothing. It's nothing compared to the sacrifices these men and women are making. This is a couple hours on a Saturday. I have to beg. I go,
You might have to offer him a participation cookie.
Yeah, maybe we'll try that.
I work for food.
I'm a very good cook, so I cook quite a bit for a lot of people.
Oh, when is this event?
But I do think it's. I think people are. We talked about entitlements. I think even adults very self-absorbed.
Yes.
I get that you're busy. But right now, when we're doing this event, you're busy with Christmas shopping. Put it aside for one day.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We did hear a lot of that. People
Get it
like
from Amazon.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My husband has been the king of Amazon this year, let me tell you.
I'm probably not far behind,
Yeah.
you know, like just that ability to like spend time and go do that doesn't really exist in our world very often. You know, our house is full of Sticks for Soldiers, paraphernalia, my CERT team stuff. You know, it's like our living room looks like a retail shop most of the year. You know, if I can stuff it in a closet.
It's not the retail shop. It's the stock room.
The stock room, yeah.
Just boxes of stuff. You know.
I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up. Let us know how we can continue to support this organization. Obviously, by airing this episode and getting more eyes on what you're doing, but also remind us again around the time event for next year, so that we can put more power behind it. And I know some people in the New York, Connecticut area, so I will be connecting you with them.
That's wonderful.
Do you know Jason Forehand?
No.
Oh, wow. I'm going to
familiar.
He is on LinkedIn, and I believe he is in your area, guys. And he does a lot with. He helps the inner city youth and find a purpose with cooking. So he got Transformation Kitchen. So you two have two powerful organizations that I think together would be explosive.
Oh, that's great.
Explosively good. Like, I feel there's a synergy there that maybe even him having his truck there or something. I don't know. But I'm going to connect you.
Looking for any of these kinds of connections.
I will connect you after this episode and really so you to reach out. And I just feel that there's something there that you guys should be connecting with each other.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful.
Thank you for bringing
and
awareness.
Likewise, you know, I know Cindy wrote it down here, the Project Vet Relief, knowing that they have something coming up soon, right? Like in the next week or so. So we'll look at what they've got on their social platform and spread that word, because we're not competing with anybody. It's like the more organizations that we get in touch with where we could say, yeah, well, we'll give you a shout out and all. I think that we have to do that. We have to get more people just being aware that these organizations exist.
So if you could go to Facebook and go to the 10th Annual Veterans Expo, which is happening January 3rd and 4th. So this is for all veterans. This is for their wives. This is for active duty. This is for allies, because Larry said I could even go. If I was in Florida, I'd be there in a heartbeat. But starting January 3rd, be there at Legion Post 69, which is at 1301 West Bell Street, Avon Park, Florida, starting at 9 o'clock. From 9 o'clock, they're going to go pick up the wall.
There's a traveling Vietnam veteran wall.
Oh yeah, they came through Connecticut actually.
Yeah,
they escort it with the American Legion Riders, and every year it comes to this expo, and it's where they have 72 nonprofits this year. Wow. Who are coming in and kind of sharing what they do. So there's a ton of availability for
resources,
networking and resources. And Bob, I'm going to, now that I have your email, because the StreamYard link, I'm going to send you some cool kid things that we're doing down here in Florida, like the hyperbaric. They need 600 veterans to participate in this at no cost to them. Actually, they pay you. So it's pretty amazing.
That's great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And so every veteran, and he says that they don't have to live in Florida, but I mean, this event is in Florida this time. Well, that's where for this. Anyways, doesn't matter. All veterans and allies and wives and spouses or boyfriends or whatever you want to call yourselves should be at this event. 72 vendors that are giving 100% information. He said 125 people last year signed up to be part of to sign up for the VA, and 75 were accepted. So that means that our 75 of our men and women that didn't have benefits before now have benefits just by going to this. And the amount of information Bob gave me in an hour is staggering. So could you imagine 2 days of this? Like, our veterans would be set for life if they would just attend this 2 days. Like,
we'll be there. Come harass me.
I'm gonna send this information to that Brendan Laird that I mentioned to you. He's in is he in Tallahassee?
Yeah,
he's in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, we'll send you the flyer and the ad, and you can
that'd be
join
great.
The group.
Yeah.
Super.
So anybody that is listening to this, please, please, please go to this event. Join the Facebook group, because Larry's putting things up every day about what's happening. So it's the 10th Annual Veterans Expo Facebook group on Facebook. Become a part of that. Join. You'll get all the information. Be there. 72 vendors at your disposal. I'm telling you, it's a no-brainer to me.
Come harass me. Let me know what you need. I'm intimately involved. I need to be careful saying that. I am strategically involved with all of the nonprofit organizations. So I know them all very well. We have definitely worked very hard to build this up. Larry has worked tirelessly. He used to be a commander at that post, and he has worked his tail off to make connections and network and bring people in and find value in some of these missions that these nonprofits have. Is just unbelievable to me. I mean, even yours, I had no idea that you raised money to help, physically disabled veterans and first responders and people who really can't go out and get a job. Like, they just aren't capable, so they need that support. And not to mention, you're in Connecticut. Like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I would probably walk my happy butt down to Harvard, but that's just me. Be like, give me some daddy money.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, guys. I don't want to take up too much of your time here. We've gone past the hour.
Appreciate the you taking the time and inviting us to come on. And again, it goes directly to our desire to raise awareness, and this will help.
Yeah, thank you.
And I see that you've got our website scrolling on the bottom there. So if anybody wants to visit, again, just keep in mind we are truly grassroots, and we hobble together a website and the information that's on there. But we're working on that. We're working on that side of it, getting our information down.
Well, Bob and Cindy, please stay on for a few minutes, and I'll let Dorothy do the outro.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for your service, both of you. Thank you for your son's service. So when you actually get to call him next, just tell him that we're thinking of him and praying for him to come home safely. And thank him for all that he does. And so thanks to everybody that's watching this episode, whether it be now or on the replay. We appreciate you. Remember, be kind, be safe. If you are in need of services for your post-traumatic stress or things like that, go check out Semper Modus website. And with that, be unstoppable in all that you do. And remember, same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.